But when you paddle against it or cling to the bottom, when you don't let yourself go, that's what fear and depression, that's what that feeling of loss of control is. That's what that feeling of disempowerment is. And we also want to remind you that this stream is not being assigned to you by someone else. Source or God or someone benevolent or not benevolent is not saying, oh, let's speed up their stream and see how well they do. You are the one that makes your stream go to the speed it does. A mother on a recent seminar took a break during segment of lunch and had lunch with her child, who said to her, when you get back, if you get a chance, would you please ask Abraham a question for me? And she said, I will. And he said, why are grown-ups so grumpy? And we said, it is the best question we've heard, and it applies to what we're talking about here more than anything else that we can think of. Grown-ups are more grumpy than children. There are grumpy children, but grown-ups on the whole are much more grumpy than children because they've lived more life and they've got a faster moving stream. And when your stream is moving fast and you're not flowing with it, it's beating you up and it makes you grumpy. In other words, it just comes down to one thing, and that is, if you are to be the joyful being you want to be and that you are meant to be, you've got to go with the flow. And when you don't feel good. It's just that simple. Not going with the flow of your own creation is what makes you feel unfulfilled. It's what makes you feel dissatisfied and worse. It's what makes you feel overwhelmed. It's what makes you feel frustrated. It's what makes you feel angry. It's what makes you feel fearful. It's what makes you feel discouraged and depressed. Not going with the flow is what is at the heart of every negative emotion that you feel. So when you think about that, break it down into the simple terms that we want you to hear. That means that your life, just like you knew it would, has caused you to launch many rockets of desires that, if you're feeling negative emotion, you're not keeping up to speed with. On the other hand, if you do keep up to speed with the rockets of desires you've launched, you feel wonderful. You feel wonderful when you launch the desire. You feel wonderful even before the desire manifests. You feel wonderful even though you don't even see the evidence of it manifesting yet. You feel wonderful, wonderful, wonderful all the way to manifestation. And when you feel wonderful, manifestation of what you want is assured. And when you don't feel wonderful, manifestation is slowed, maybe even held apart your entire lifetime from you. And most important, even more important than you not manifesting what you want, is that you feel rotten all the time while you're not letting it flow. So we want you to get a sense from this analogy that we're offering, a very apt, appropriate analogy, that if you will just make a decision that however you can make it happen, you're going to turn and go with the flow. Sometimes we think, especially those of you who've been listening to us for a while, as we crow about the good feeling emotions being on this end of the emotional scale, love and joy and all of that wonderful energy, and on the other end of the scale are things that feel like depression and fear and anger. And we know that we give you the impression that your work is to not only not be on this end of the scale, but get to this end of the scale as quickly as possible. And of course, we'd rather that you felt this way than this way. But what we really want you to understand is that since the stream is moving, we really are not asking you to turn your boat downstream and put a motor on it and get all the way down here as quickly as you can. Because we know the power of the stream. You don't have to do that. In fact, you don't even have to turn your boat in the stream. Just stop paddling upstream. Just stop paddling against the current. The current will turn you. And this is the thing we most want you to hear. As the current turns you, that's your point of relief. And when you think about it, that is your only choice. Upstream or not. Upstream or not. Of course, it's nice when you're choosing downstream and you're so good at it that you can really choose it. But your choice at any moment is really to feel worse or better. Worse or better. And when you make that decision all day, every day, I could beat the drum of this situation and make it worse, or I could just stop talking about it and make it better. Esther's really been hearing us about this, and as she's driving the monster bus, often Jerry's in the back doing something, and she will call out, "Can you hear me?" And he'll say, "Yes, what do you need?" as he starts making his way forward so that they can have a conversation. And by the time he gets all the way up there, Esther is determined, oh wait, that was an upstream comment. So he gets all the way to the front of the bus and she'll say, never mind. It was sort of upstream. And Jerry is wise enough that he doesn't say, oh, come on, tell me. He doesn't want to know the upstream comment. He's very happy to go back to the back of the bus where he was living happily ever after. In other words, he does not want to go to some place, and Esther is wise enough that she doesn't want to verbalize it. And what she's discovering is, if she doesn't verbalize it, it's not as strong. If she doesn't talk about it, join the online group about it, call everybody she knows about it. In other words, if you stop talking about the things that make you feel worse, you'll stop going upstream. The current will take you because the current is moving. It is moving rapidly, and it will carry you, you see. Can you imagine if Jerry and Esther said to the river guide, where are we going to get out of the stream? And he would say, oh, down in Fort Collins, several miles downstream. Can you imagine them saying, well, in that case, we would like you to put us back on the bus and carry us and our boat down to about 500 feet from where we're going to get out, because we like instant manifestation. We just want to get in, get to our destination and be done with this. And he would say, all right, crazy lady. I thought you wanted a ride on the river. And that is what your inner being is saying to you. We thought you wanted a ride on this river. And you would say, I did want a ride on the river when I thought it was going to be fun. I just don't like being bashed against these rocks. And we say, then stop clinging to them. And you say, well, how would I do that? And we say by saying, never mind, it was an uphill, it was an upstream comment. Never mind. Never mind. As you begin to withdraw your attention from those things that feel bad when you think about them, when you stop talking about what you don't want and what's not working, you see, you've asked for more money, and every time you say there's not enough money, that costs too much money, they're asking for too much money, this is highway robbery, who do they think they are, the rich are taking advantage, the government is spending our money inappropriately, look at that kid driving that beautiful car, the car I've wanted all of my life, he doesn't deserve it, his mother probably bought it for him, who did he have to kill, he's probably doing drugs, he's probably dealing drugs. When you beat those drums that make your negative emotion feel stronger, you are practicing your muscles at moving upstream. And some of you get so good at it. You get so good at it that, in fact, when you come to a gathering like this where we're encouraging you to make more comments that feel better, many of you say, it feels like my thoughts are thinking me. I don't mean to think these thoughts. I don't mean to feel this way. It's just easier, frankly, to have those thoughts than to have those thoughts. And we say, oh, it's because you've worked so hard at getting yourself in that direction. But the real reason is because law of attraction, the most powerful law in the universe, the only law worth talking about, says this is a vibrational universe, and what you are offering vibrationally is coming to you. And as it comes to you and you observe it, now it comes to you even more. So you have to do something to break the cycle of that attraction. And it's not the easiest thing when you've got that momentum going, even though it was hard momentum to get going. It's not the easiest thing to change a belief. That's all. A belief is only a thought that you keep thinking. It's only a habit of thought. And we want you to let yourself off the hook by reminding you that the reason that the habit of thought is so easy to maintain is because law of attraction is delivering to you more thoughts that are like it. Haven't you noticed that when you start ragging on something that is unpleasant, other things like it come to your mind? Things that happened last year and the year before and the year before that and the year before that. And don't you notice then that when you start offering that vibration, that other people that feel the same way start making their way into your experience? Jerry and Esther notice it in the campground. They'll see there are hundreds of coaches, sometimes in some of these campgrounds that they stay in as they move across the nation. And they'll see a cluster of happy people over there and a cluster of ornery people over there. And the thing that is most interesting is that they know, in most cases, they just met each other today. They didn't drive in a happy cluster or an unhappy cluster. They didn't come. We belong to the ornery RV club. And we travel in a pack. It's not that way. They just show up, and law of attraction causes them to gravitate together. So the crabby ones are over there. The ones that like to take walks together are over there. The ones that like to play cards together are over there. The ones that like to talk about their grandchildren are over there. In other words, it is like this island of attraction. And we say it's that where everywhere you go, you move through traffic, and those who are a vibrational match to you gravitate to you. You move through shopping centers, those who are a vibrational match to you. You go to a restaurant, that which is a vibrational match to you. In other words, if you get the spinach that is tainted, it's not by accident. Law of attraction never makes that mistake. Nothing ever comes to you that is not a vibrational match to who you are, you see. So, as you come to realize that law of attraction is this powerful law, and therefore it's logical, since I've been feeling this way, maybe something happened. It came out of the blue. It didn't even seem like it had anything to do with me. It always does, or it doesn't come to you. But something happens. Maybe somebody that you love had something happen to them. And as you are observing it, you have this knee-jerk response. You have this kick in your gut, so to speak. You feel terrible in observing it. And as you give your attention to it, the negative emotion that you feel is your indication that what you want is this way, and that what you're looking at is this way. And many of our physical friends would say, but Abraham, I didn't ask for this. This just happened to my family, or this just happened to my community. This just happened, and all I'm doing is observing it. And we say, we know that. All that you're doing is observing it. But in observing it, you are activating a vibration within you that is contrary to who you really are. And even though it is true and you are observing it, even though it is factual and you are observing it, your guidance is saying, turn away from it. Because your observation of this unwanted thing has you offering a vibration of resistance, which is keeping you from moving in the direction of what you are wanting. So did we make the point with you that source energy flowed with you into this physical body, and that as life causes you to ask for more, that source energy becomes that which you are asking for and continues to call you toward it? That really is what inspiration is. It's that feeling of being called in the direction of source. And many of our physical friends would say, well, that sounds good, but what does the call of source sound like? Harps and angels, surely. And we say, well, that depends on where you are in relationship to it. If you're in despair, the call of source does not sound like harps and angels. It does not sound like love and appreciation. You're translating it through vibrational ears that are not hearing it that way. If you are in despair, which feels like powerlessness, and you are moving in the direction of source, it may very well feel like revenge, which feels only slightly better than despair, but it does feel better. If you're in despair, the call of source may very well feel like anger. And then it feels like less anger. And then it feels like frustration and overwhelmment. And eventually it begins to feel like hope, belief, and knowing. When you come into alignment with source, you feel fulfilled. You feel satisfied. You feel expectant. You feel positive emotion. And so to the degree that you feel positive or negative emotion, that's to the degree that you've turned and are moving in the direction of it. But we want you to leave this gathering with a firm decision within you, or at least an understanding, that Abraham is not asking you to move from one end of the scale to the other. All we're asking for your well-being is that you just stop paddling so hard upstream, and in your attempt to try to quiet your mind, or at least change the subject, that you stop this direction away from who you are, and in that process your boat will turn and you will begin moving, and the relief will happen right then. So what you're reaching for again and again is the relief factor. Imagine, all day, every day, no matter where you put into the stream. And after all, this is worth writing down too. Where I am is where I am. And where I am is where I am. There's no point in saying, no, I want to be in the stream over there. Where you are is where you are. But does it really matter? Does it matter where you put your boat into the stream? If the stream's moving in the direction of everything that you want, does it matter? Does it matter where you put your boat in if the stream is moving toward what you want, and the stream is enough current, and that all you have to do is just not do that thing you do that keeps you from moving comfortably? We think this is a very good analogy, this stream analogy, because it is really in alignment with the way the universal forces flow. And it really gives you the best picture that we could ever give you of what your work is in fulfilling your life's purpose. You see, many of you think that I've got to come forth into a physical body and I've got to work hard in order to achieve. And what we're wanting you to understand is life itself causes you to do the real work, which is come to your own preference.